greatest spiritual gathering on earth in the human history of enlightenment and liberation. We will reflect on what is enlightenment and true liberation and how different cultures seek it on earth. Let's start by recognizing and acknowledging this special sacred event. It's a 44-day event. It happens once every 144 years, the Maha Kumbh Mela in India. And this year, it is estimated to be the largest gathering so far in the human history, with estimated attendance of over 400 million people. Physical attendance. What an event, isn't it? There aren't that many people in the United States. Actually, just 500 years ago, the whole human population on Earth was only about 400 to 500 million. So only 500 years ago, there were approximately the same number of humanity on the whole planet. And now, the same amount of people are gathering for this great spiritual event. It is truly a wonderful and great spiritual event because the intention of this event, Maha Kumbh Mela, is enlightenment and liberation. Now, we know that there are other special religious events, such as Christmas, for example. It's supposed to be a religious event, but it is not celebrated in terms of individual, personal enlightenment, liberation. At the same time, there are many festivals that happen on Earth. Let's say some yoga festivals happening every few years around the world or in India. But even at these yoga festivals, of course, those who are more deeply realizing what is yoga, it is all about enlightenment and liberation. But for many, many, yoga has lost that deepest meaning. So they gather for all kinds of activities and dances and so on, but not necessarily for this highest intention of enlightenment and liberation. So the Maha Kumbh Mela is the event with this highest intention. And actually, this is the time where all the sadhus, the renunciate yogis who have been secluded across India and other regions in forests and mountains and wherever else they have secluded themselves from civilization, they gather all together for this sacred event. And what a view it becomes to see them all coming together. What a view to witness these yogis coming out of seclusion and gathering together and recognizing unity. It is the only time really that they all come together. It's a uniting event. Since it's so large event, there are many other activities and the mythological Hindu performances and bhajans and all imaginable and unimaginable spiritual activities taking place in India. Some groups within this event are dedicating their intention of meditation for global conflict resolution, such as wars, but majority of people are gathering to bathe in the sacred waters, to dip into the river, and to wash away their burdens. And in the deepest, truest intention, they hold the intention of liberation from karma. So, of course, in reality, just by dipping in the river, one will not become liberated as such, but it is still this deep intention and the journey undertaken. Some people from far lands of India, they save up all their money so that they could travel with their family for this event. And they hold this event as the most important thing in their whole life. This absolute sincerity and absolute dedication and the utmost upholdance of this event, this truly brings great merits to their souls, because they might not have any opportunities to meet gurus around or attend their satsang and their offerings, but what they get to know is about this event, and they come with this hope, with this great deep sacred intention. So this event creates a very high level collective consciousness field. 400 million gathering, and many more millions know about it. There is so much happening, so many masters gathered on the higher planes. There are so many gurus all around the world focused on this event, that it is truly the greatest spiritual event that humanity has ever seen so far. It holds an extremely high potential for a global transformation, for collective consciousness upliftment. It is the largest satsang ever on earth. Just 500 years ago, there was the same amount of people living on the whole planet. So what a feast it is in a physical sense to witness this gathering. But for those with eyes to see on these spiritual planes, it is 10 times fold larger event and gathering of souls for this highest purpose, highest intention. So, as you know, intention is extremely important. Intention is what directs the energy, it's what directs the outcome. This is why at the beginning of mention that there are other religious, spiritual events, but not all of them hold this highest intention of enlightenment and liberation, moksha. Coming now to the topic of what is enlightenment. It is not a mere realization of higher consciousness. A realization of higher light or higher nature of reality is just one part of enlightenment, just one leg of this great task. It is not that difficult to realize a greater light, to look into it, to recognize it. to witness it, to begin to understand it, comprehend it. Realization means a much deeper comprehension or a deeper instant seeing of this truth of nature of existence, nature of the self or nature of God. That is one part of enlightenment. The other, much more complex part, much more difficult part, is the actual liberation of the soul and the spirit. Karma is that which weighs down. It's like a sandbags that hold the air balloon at the ground. So the same way, there are many instances where the seekers glimpse into the higher light, momentarily witness the bliss and love divine. But that is a moment. And more difficult part is how to sustain it by burning off the karma that binds the soul and the spirit to the lower regions, the unfinished works, uncompleted cycles, and these deep, long forgotten pockets where bondage is accumulated. And one may say, oh, I see this higher light. I just want to be there. I want to be there. But something pulls you back, pulls you down, or gives you trouble, all coming back again and again. And this is how karma operates. And how do different cultures around the world seek for enlightenment or salvation? Christianity doesn't have a concept of enlightenment as such, but it upholds the principle of salvation, liberation. The key deity is Jesus and Mother Mary and other saints to whom masses are praying and hold the faith that if they accumulate good deeds, which is a principle of good karma, although they don't call it as such, that via this deity, Jesus, Mother Mary, and so on, that they will achieve this salvation. Similarly, it is in Islam. Buddhism is more direct. It recognizes enlightenment and liberation. And Hinduism is extremely diverse, ultimately seeking the same goal. Of course, there are many more religions and traditions around the world, all of them seeking to know God, to know the source of all, to recognize a unifying nature of soul and spirit, and to see the temporal form of physicality. So while many of these cultures, religions, traditions seek for the same goal, the depth of this intention varies significantly. What they consider God varies significantly. What they consider salvation or liberation varies significantly. So you see, the idea is the same. Enlightenment, liberation, the idea itself is the same, but the meaning and the actual practice varies greatly. according to these different paths. One of our future projects at Divine Marga will be to map out different religions, spiritual traditions, and paths, yogic paths, and those who aim at these higher goals, to map them out and to see how far they're reaching, like a visual map. This would be very beautiful to see which paths lead to Brahmanda or even Anda, because they may consider liberation, salvation to any kind of heaven. Just 5D is good enough in the Anda plane of existence. Which paths are aiming at Brahmanda level heavens or planes of existence? Which paths look at the top of Brahmanda, Brahmajyoti, which is beyond duality, beyond this universe, already recognizing the complexity of our universe and the nature of duality itself, and seeking that kind of enlightenment and liberation. We will look at which paths will consider enlightenment, liberation beyond Brahmajyoti. Well, Par-Brahmanda, which is much more real deal, which has no more tricks of Lord Brahm, or known as Kal Niranjan. And we will also discover what are those very few paths that know exactly what the true Source Supreme is, divine levels of salvation, liberation, enlightenment, which are very few actually. For a great discernment is needed. So some of you are already somewhat familiar with these terms. If you're not familiar with the terms that I use, you can go on Divine Marga website and click on Soul menu, and then you will see a glossary. So you can become more acquainted with the language that we use, because this is important to begin to understand this great map and what these different regions are. So this is very rare indeed. And therefore, the reason why I'm saying this, to wrap it up, is because enlightenment and liberation have different meaning, different depth of what that truly is. Perhaps for majority of people who are not familiar with any deeper nature of the spiritual path, they simply want to be free from a physical cycle of reincarnation and continue their journey in Anda, the subtle life. So when we come to these great topics, we should always inquire, what is the deeper meaning behind this? What do you refer behind this word enlightenment or liberation? Even more so, it is beautiful that these souls gathering, they have this intention of liberation and enlightenment. Because there are billions of people who don't have this intention, who have no spiritual intentions whatsoever. Billions of people. So therefore, those souls, those people who have this, at least some idea of enlightenment and liberation, are already blessed, are already directed towards this great path. That is already a great merit of their past karmas, past lives. Because many, many billions of people, they have no idea that even enlightenment exists or that one can be freed from the cycle of karma. They might become aware of the 9 to 5 race, the physical cycle of the physical work system, and they want to be free from that at least. They set their minds to create businesses and find ways to escape that matrix of physical life, not realizing that that is just the physical activities, but there is a much greater liberation at hand. So we can see that the same idea can be broken down into many levels. And essentially, we may say that humanity, most of it, do have a sense of seeking freedom, seeking happiness, being released from bondage or suffering. And this is where Buddha has realized and brought forward the 8 Noble Truths. So as we look at the whole civilization, we may recognize the same willingness or the same underlying wanting desire. So today is a special event to recognize this greatest spiritual gathering on the planet in the human history, to recognize its true intention and the available depths of the intention of enlightenment and liberation.